but I understand where my brother's perspective. He's just, I think I'm just a little more. When it comes to that, I think I'm a little more forgiving. Like I said, I don't know. So I could see back to the degenerate or the deal breaker question. If I was dating this Puerto Rican chick and her fucking folks hated me, I would make an effort to try to either win them over, and it might never happen. I might never win them over, but it's not a deal breaker for me to be with the girl. It just means I gotta mind my P's and Q's and walk on eggshells a little bit, you know.
And you have to do it while being around them constantly.
Yeah, tricky shit. Question number 3 for you, sir. She thinks COVID is a hoax, part of a conspiracy by the government to control us.
Yeah, it's probably a deal breaker. Well, because I'm assuming. So that's one of those things where like that never comes by itself, right? I don't think there's anyone who is like completely normal in all other areas, and they're like no, just this one thing. Like she's got other conspiracy theories. She's got some interesting political views. She's got like. I don't know. That would be my assumption.
Yeah.
Because you also said like a hoax. That's just it. If I'm trying to think how to put this. It's like just demonstrably not a hoax. It's like everybody at this point knows someone who's gotten COVID. That's just ignoring reality.
Yeah.
If she was like, well, no, like. China released it to at least somehow there's a little bit of a grounding in reality. But if you're just completely ignoring things that you could just tangibly see, I'm like, nah.
Okay.
Nah, I'm out.
That was my question, but let me take it back. Let's say she obviously doesn't believe it's a hoax. She knows COVID is real, but she thinks it's a U.S. government, part of a government conspiracy to control us and to microchip us and all that.
Sure. But I'd say why? How does that benefit the? Why would they do that? What's the end game there?
Mind control, dude.
They're mind controlling this.
Yeah. Didn't you hear? Have you ever heard about the one where they supposedly put fluoride in water because that's like enough fluoride in the body they can control us? I don't know enough chemistry to.
I would say I'm like so you think. How are they microchipping us through COVID? And then she's like, "Oh, the vaccines." I'm like, "Do you understand what a microchip is? Like, did you
a nanobot?
Did you? Yes. I mean, I'm like, so basically, just to be clear, you saw one of the Avengers movies and you confused the Stark nanobot technology with like a real thing. Is that what happened? And she's like, "Yeah, it's nanotechnology." I'm like, "Okay, now we're out of the realm of like reality."
Right.
Like, because that is the one thing that like there was just no benefit for the government to do that. Like it doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't when you're trying to figure out a crime, there has to be a motive or it just doesn't really work. And it's like all these big fucking companies and corporations, they all lost. Well, actually, that's not really true, is it? I was gonna say a lot of them lost money. The government definitely lost money.
Yeah.
But here we're getting into this like weird conspiracy web where you can try to twist it around. It's like it was all for the corporations and they did this and that. I'm like, nah, I think I'm good.
I think that shit's interesting, but as a kind of as a jest, like people that take it like hardcore serious, I'm kind of like, all right. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean that's like just to all go back. That's probably a deal breaker. Like, just to be clear, if you're asking like, oh, do you think our government is just great and altruistic and every intention they have is pure and they're not doing like weird shady backdoor shit, I'd be like, no, absolutely not. But yeah, that one doesn't really make sense.
All right, you're up, Chief.
Here's what if she just has a really, really monotone voice?
Looks like a robot?
Yeah, and that's just completely and not even just the voice. She's just like a very like emotionless in terms of her outward display. Like she has emotions and feelings and everything, but it's very hard to tell just from looking or hearing it. Or because
I'm gonna say it's not a deal breaker only because I think I have been with a couple girls like that. Bland. Near emotionless, almost always monotone. It wasn't a deal breaker, but it didn't make the relationship, whether it was just dating or just banging or hooking up, whatever. It didn't make it fun. It was kind of like, why do I want to be a part of this? I mean, so it's not a deal breaker, but it's not like a lasting thing.
What if she was super monotone and emotionless, but also insisted on doing like a lot of dirty talk while having sex.
Oh, put it in my butt.
Yeah,
Yes. Finger
Armando.
me. Yeah.
That's the spot.
Twist my nipples.
Just so disinterested.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck? Please just shut up.
Yeah.
No?
No, not a deal breaker. Aaron, question number 4 for you.
Yeah.
She did a porn scene once, but says she has no interest in ever doing it again.
No, so what? Hold on. Now, what was the porn scene? It was just one scene.
She got fucked.
It was a one-off.
She gave a dude a blowy, and then
yeah. Are we talking? The sponsor of our last episode, Bang Bros. Are we talking about just a typical Bang Bros scene, or is this like? Let's
just say it's a vanilla sex scene.
Mega Bukkake 9000.
Yeah, no, a vanilla sex scene. It wasn't like there was some doggy, there was some missionary, there was a blowjob, but there was none of this like come all over your face or it wasn't like she wasn't getting like 3-wayed by 2 dudes or something like that, or it was just
vanilla sex scene. No problem at all.
Oh, really?
No problem. If it was like if she's like I was like there was something, deep inside, like, you like to see if you can climb mountains, and I wanted to see if I could solo bang 25 guys at once, and that was my mountain to climb, and I'm like, okay, I think maybe maybe our interests are a little bit too different there.
But you're okay if she did one fuck scene.
Who gives a shit?
So like. Your folks can like YouTube or not YouTube, but
they don't know how to use the internet that well.
Okay. All right,
we're fine.
all right, your question, you're up.
And if they did, I'd be like, guys, why are you watching that?
All right, you're up.
And then I'd be like, if you really need to watch that, I mean, I could ask if she wants to make a private video for you guys, and then I guarantee you, it would never come up again. They were like, all right, no, that's okay. Okay, last one. She is just really, really, really into serial killers. All the serial killer shows, the Jeffrey Dahmer documentaries. Like she likes to you've got your little framed posters of half naked guys all over the place. And she's got she clicks original newspaper clippings about serial killers and likes to get them framed. Like that's her thing. Like,
I don't know. I don't think I'd have a problem with it. Because I've kind of sort of dipped my toes in that. Like I watched the Dahmer show, and then I went through some rabbit hole on YouTube of watching different serial killer thing. I never like stuck through an entire episode. They were all kind of boring, but I dipped my toes. It kind of did. I very rarely go down this like internet like search history thing and start looking up all this stuff. But it interests me, and then I kind of just walk away from it because it's like, it's not for me. But if there's someone that really likes that shit, it'd be kind of cool. So I'd learn from them probably. I don't know that I would pursue the same passion that they would, but don't bother me none.
You gotta watch serial killer things all the time. You gotta drive to like the childhood homes of serial killers anytime you're going through a state, so she can like look at them and take selfies in front of them. It's like, this is where Jeffrey. I don't even really know any of the serial killers, but like this is where Buffalo Bill. That's a fictional one, right? This is where he like carved up 20 victims, and she's like doing like the like bunny ears selfie. You're like, what the fuck? Like serial killers, major part of your life. You're down with it?
Yeah. All right, last one from me. She was.
You have a sixth one?
I've only done 4.
Oh, you went first, so.
Yeah, so you probably skipped one of yours.
Did I?
Yeah, because I'm going in order of the ones that I had written down. But in any case.
Oh, I did skip one.
All right, so last one for me. She was born a hermaphrodite, but is now 100% a woman.
So she can't have kids then.
Is that
Yeah, I don't think they can.
I don't know. Okay.
Well, I guess in this scenario, in your thing, like, can she have kids?
Well, so okay. How that question came about, I was watching something Halloween came up, and I go, "Oh, Jamie Lee Curtis, she's hot."
Yeah, that was a rumor.
And there was the rumor that she was born with a dick. and then she got it chopped off and just went straight to become a woman. But I don't know if that's true or not. It's probably just
No, I think that was a rumor. But in this scenario, can she have kids?
if you're telling me scientifically hermaphrodites can't, then no. But if it's
Hey Mondo, guess what? I didn't go to med school.
okay, so let's assume that hermaphrodites can, choose, like at a certain point in their life they can choose which way they want to go, and she went the woman way, and then had all the insides to be able to reproduce. Would you be cool with it?
I think so. And you know what? I don't even know if she couldn't have kids. I don't know if that would even necessarily be a deal breaker.
So for me, you kind of I didn't know the Jamie Lee Curtis thing was a rumor, but I was like, Jamie Lee Curtis comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to fuck." I'd be like, "Yes, please." You know what I mean?
I mean, especially if it's Jamie Lee Curtis in what was that movie with Schwarzenegger?
I don't know. Oh,
True Lies?
Yeah. Though there's earlier on in her youth, she was very open about showing her titties. Like she was very open about showing boobies and all this shit. Like there's a lot of, I think she has a lot of topless scenes in like movies from like the 70s and 80s. But in any case, you're cool with it. Did you find your last question for me?
No, I'm just trying to find out if hermaphrodites can have kids or not. Apparently, this was a published paper by Mr. Brett A.H. Schultz et al. From Obstet Gynecological Studies 2009. It says, conclusion, partial removal of testicular tissue may enhance fertility in hermaphrodites.
Ooh.
And there may be a genetic basis for the progeny to be male. So it sounds like they can... In some cases, hermaphrodites can become pregnant, and they're more predisposed to having boys than girls.
All right.
I don't really know. I don't know how that affects the deal breaker, but I'm learning so much today. Learning about DNA tests and hermaphrodites. What a wonderful world we live in.
Yep.
But yeah, speaking of problematic women to date, we are going to do a binge or purge, which formerly was new on Netflix, and this is the first Netflix show we've done in a while. I think we're going to do a review of Wednesday.
I'm bummed they didn't use that fucking song.
No, they sort of did. So
I know they kind of mix in.
That was one of the things that they tried to do to not the greatest effect. Where they're like, let's work in sort of out of place references to the original movie and show.
Yeah.
Where it really, and one of the parts that I was just like, guys, really, minor spoiler alert. There is a statue where there's a riddle, and when they solve the riddle, the way you get to the secret passage is snapping twice, like we were just doing. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, so apparently in all the years this school's been, no one has just snapped their fingers in front of the statue. Like that is the worst way to disguise a hidden passage. Because like, what are the Mondo? Do you ever just snap your fingers like you're trying to remember something? You're like, and then
it's rare. I do, but I don't. It's not like I'm snapping my fingers. Like I might do it to stupid over there to.
But yeah. In the 50 years that school has been there or whatever, no one has ever just snapped their fingers in front of this fucking statue. I'm like, anyhow. So I guess if I was to describe the show, it as Armando alluded to, it is sort of a spin-off of the Addams Family, where the main character is now Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, Wednesday is the daughter, so named for the line, Wednesday's child is full of woe. I was sort of alluding to her a little bit in the Dealbreakers. She's very monotone and sullen and obsessed with serial killers, and she's kind of a sadist. And she's like a kind of like an anime protagonist in a way, because she's super OP. Like, we don't really ever get an explanation why she has such high proficiency in everything.
Yeah.
But she can like fucking pick locks, and she knows how to fight incredibly well, and she's like a swords master, and it's like this is just sort of an OP protagonist.
And you're
where
like,
just like,
you're
okay,
like,
all right.
where did you find the time to learn all these skills and be super proficient in everything you do? It's
Yeah,
crazy.
she's like 15 when the show starts, and she's like, well, I spent 7 years living in Tibet with monks and fighting polar bears. We're like, what the fuck are you talking? Like, how did you? Where did you have time to do any of this? And she is a female edgelord. So I guess would that make her an edge lady? Do you know
Sure.
that? You know that term, edgelord?
Nope.
Let me see. Let me see if I can find the Urban Dictionary definition. But like, there's a lot of especially like 2000s protagonists and I think it's in more shows geared towards young males where the protagonist is supposed to be very edgy and he's always trying to say things that are a little
So Wednesday
provocative. So this is the definition: a person who affects a provocative or extreme persona, especially online, typically used of a man. Edgelords act like contrarians in the hope everyone will admire them as rebels. She's a little edgelord.
So Wednesday Addams is played by Jenna Ortega. I've seen her before in a couple of things. She was in the most recent Scream that came out like maybe a year ago. Also notable is Gwendolyn Christie, who plays Brienne of Tarth in Game of Thrones.
Uh-huh.
She was also in.
She's like the one person in the whole series who can act pretty well.
She was great. She was also in Sandman, the show that just came out not too long ago, and also, surprise, surprise, Christina Ricci plays a part in the show, which is kind of a nod because obviously Christina Ricci did Wednesday Addams and the Addams Family movies. There was like 2 movies in like the
she
90s.
was from an acting perspective a far superior Wednesday to Jenna Ortega.
You think so?
Oh hell yeah! I feel like when they made this show, they were sort of like, we want to make this like Harry Potter but with monsters, and I feel like they had a limited time frame and budget to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, should we put our resources into writing? Like, they're like, no, fuck that. It'll just Harry Potter monsters. It writes itself. Don't worry about any of that. And then they're like, well, should we put it into acting? They're like, no, not really. We don't need to do that. They're like, well, do we put it into CGI? They're like, no. We're going to put all the money into set design. Our set design is going to be amazing. Everything else is going to be not like terrible, but kind of bad. And they're like, but we need some CGI. And they're like, yeah, we're going to spend our whole CGI budget on the very last episode. And the CGI for the rest of the show is going to look like that we spent like $10 on it.
So tell me how you really feel about the show.
I mean, I think I just did it right there.
Yeah.
I mean, so well, let's start because you're talking about the people in the show.
Right.
Some of it was not their fault because they were given a lot of clunker lines of dialogue to deliver, which is not entirely their fault. Particularly Jenna Ortega, because they're like, yeah, we want you to be sullen and edgy, and you're obsessed with death and macabre. And now you have to randomly say this pop culture phrase where it's like, what was the one where I was just like kind of rolled my eyes where she was like, trying to be this sort of sullen Wednesday, and she's like, now you're going to mansplain me how because she's like a seer, like she can see the future, like how my visions work. There was a lot of parts like that where they just randomly tried to throw in pop culture words and lines into the show, and it just none of them fit for me. Like every time I was like, ugh. But that said, the dialogue was not so bad that I immediately turned off the show. Like, you remember that show Lock and Key?
Yeah.
The dialogue in that
was dog shit.
And the acting performances were so bad. I couldn't make it through 10
Yeah.
minutes. I'm like, this show might be great, but so Wednesday, if it was strict like pass fail, it would be a pass for me, but just barely.
Yeah. I forgot a couple other, sorry to go back, but a couple other actors that were in it. Catherine Zeta-Jones plays Morticia.
Famously cannot act.
Famously cannot act, but do you really have to when you're playing Morticia?
Yeah, a little bit.
And
Angelica Houston was great.
oh, she was great. Well, let's just say that both Angelica Houston and then what's that guy's name that passed away in the original Addams Family movies?
Don't know. Well, but Christopher Lloyd was Uncle Fester.
No, I'm not.
But I'm saying Christopher Lloyd was Uncle Fester in the original, and he was in the movies, and he was great.
Yeah. No, in this one, Uncle Fester is played by Fred Armisen.
I really did not like him as Uncle Fester.
I didn't like him either. He was my least favorite character.
That was the only one where I'm like, no, just fucking get him out of here.
And then Luis Guzman, who you may or may not have seen in a bunch of other movies. He's a recognizable actor, but he's not a big name like A-list actor.
He's been in a ton of stuff, and he always plays Luis Guzman.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I don't think Luis Guzman as what I forget the character's
Gomez
Adams. Yeah, I'm like, I don't think it really works.
Yeah. So those are the kind of the big name, high profile actors, actresses. There was actually, I remember when the movie was still kind of in post production, and then critics got an early sneak peek at the show. A lot of them had a lot of problems with the actor and actress that they chose for Gomez and Morticia Addams. Are like, oh, they kind of ruined the parts and blah 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 blah. I really couldn't care either way because this show's supposed to be about Wednesday.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. So those two, not the best casting.
No,
but it was fine.
Yeah.
And particularly Catherine Zeta-Jones, I think she is not a great actress, but she didn't really need to be, and they didn't have major roles. It was more like Jenna Ortega and like the other main cast members. I'm like, they were not good, but they weren't terrible. That was the way I'd put it, and I think Jenna Ortega did a passable job, probably better than a lot of the other supporting actors. So like, it worked for me. Her performance grew on me in the beginning. Again, I felt like both the writing and her performance, they were trying way too hard to be edgy, because they also love to randomly have her say things like, she's like, I had to sit through class. It was torture, but I prefer my torture with guillotines and racks and spikes. And it's like, fucking, all right, Wednesday, we get it. We get it, Wednesday. Like, chill out. But they threw so many of those in, particularly early. We're like, okay, we fucking get it. All right, can we get on with the story? But I do think the story got a little bit better. It was very Scooby-Doo.
Yep.
But to be fair, so was Harry Potter in certain aspects. There's a lot of like
twists and turns.
We gotta investigate the creepy hallway. Let's go, gang.
Yeah.
You know. But in defense of the show Wednesday, I think some of the mysteries unfurled better than Harry Potter. That's probably the only thing they did better in terms of world building. Harry Potter's like a billion times better.
Yeah.
Frankly, their world building did not really make sense to me, because in their world, in the world of Wednesday, they're the quote unquote outcasts who go to this fictional school, Nevermore, which is like the Wednesday version of Hogwarts, based on, I guess, founded by like Edgar Allan Poe, because he has that line, quoth the raven nevermore. And there are then normies, and this is just like an accepted thing, because people in the town who are quote unquote normies are like, oh yeah, we're normies. And I'm like, what? Like, that's the thing. People who are in the normal majority never refer to themselves as normies.
Yeah,
that's not how they view things. And in this world, I feel like all these people would be just, all the quote unquote outcasts would be like burned at the stake or something. Normal people do not like sort of like overpowered monsters with non-specific powers running around.
Yes, sir.
Because that was the other part of the world building, which was a little bit confusing. Like, at first, they do seem like they're trying to establish, like, oh, there's like vampires and there's werewolves, but then it kind of becomes, and there's just like whatever else we want. And can people fly in this world? We don't know. Maybe. Can someone randomly control bees as like a superpower? That's their superpower. Yeah. He has to go to this outcast school for werewolves because he can control bees. Sure. Yeah, that's what we're going with. Fucking don't think about it too hard. We didn't like that. That's how I felt the screenwriters sort of approach things, which was fine. I mean, it lacked some of, like I said, that really rich world building that made Harry Potter great, but maybe there's only so much you can do in a show with the time they had.
For me, the show, I think just as my opinion, it just had a rough start. The first 2 or 3 episodes for me seemed to take a little longer, a little slower paced, and it didn't grab me.
No.
And I kind of was just like, okay, I'm going to force myself to watch these other episodes. And then it started building. And then, that Scooby-Doo-ness, that whodunit, had me.
That worked, right?
Yeah, yeah. Toward the last, 4 or 5 episodes, you had me kind of hooked.
Well, because particularly in the first few episodes, there was stuff that just didn't really seem to fit. Like, they're like, we're going to have Wednesday get into a sword fight in fencing class, which is a thing that will happen once, but then never come back again. What if we had Wednesday and then a bunch of other girls dress up in leather cat costumes and go on a canoe race? Does this have any relation to anything at all? No, but look, Wednesday in a cat costume. And because I think at that point they were realizing we have made a show for 13-year-old girls. We at least need to get some 13-year-old boys on board with this. Wednesday in a cat costume. That's got to work. And you know what? I think they're probably right.
You think so?
Maybe. I think 13-year-old boys would watch the show
probably,
as well.
Yeah.
Because again, Wednesday is edgy, and she's like, oh, she's not like other girls. She likes serial murders and blood. But yeah, I agree with you, Mondo. Once the Scooby-Doo element got going, it was much more interesting.
Yes.
What was the Scooby-Doo resolution where they pull off the mask? And you're like, Jinkies, it was the amusement park operator the entire time. Was that satisfying for you, or was it sort of an eye roll?
I didn't see it coming.
Really?
Yeah. So you watch movies like that, the whodunit type movies, and you start I'm suspicious of this character, this character, this character.
Mm-hmm.
One of the two threw me off. One of the two final culprits, I guess, if you want to call them that, kind of threw me off. The other one, I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of saw that one coming.
Okay. I'm trying to think how much spoilers to go into. Okay, listen, light spoilers / hints. Out of the overall mastermind, the way they set it up, there was only 2 people in the entire show it could be. So I was like, and they kept trying to make it seem like it was the one. So I'm like, obviously this is a red herring. They didn't give you enough clues to actually figure out who the quote unquote mastermind was, except for the fact that you knew it had to be a woman, and there just weren't that many women in the cast.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, it's obviously.
Well, there was 3 that for me.
Right. There was 3, but one of them it couldn't have been just because there wasn't a way for it to be that person, I didn't think. And then so it was between 2 of them, and one of them made absolutely no sense. Really, they didn't really set it up, which is why it was a big twist at the end. But the one that they were sort of pointing towards, I was like, yeah, I don't.
You felt it was too obvious?
I felt like the way they had done everything else, I'm like, oh, they're gonna try to make a twist. So being that I've eliminated one and there's only 2 left, then it's got to be the random one. That was how I got to it. But anyhow, see guys, you could get you could have fun trying to figure out this Scooby-Doo mystery yourself. But instead of a talking, I guess Scoob is a talking dog somehow. A talking dog and a 60s stoner. It could be this 20-year-old playing a 16-year-old edge queen. What's the color in edge queen?
Outside of plot and all that, did you have any characters in particular you kind of liked or disliked or felt strongly either way?
You know what? I wish that the actor had been a little bit better in terms of his performance, but I felt like they did my man Eugene Ottinger wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, he was, you know what? He was trying.
Yeah.
And he was such an outcast that his power made no fucking sense.
Yeah.
Why is he at this school? He's a little nerdy kid.
I was initially this character. I was like, I'm not gonna like this character. I'm not almost so to the point where I was like, I'm not gonna like this show because of this character. Basically, the roommate, the little blonde girl.
Yeah.
I was like, I am not gonna like this show. This roommate's annoying the fuck out of me already. And I just stuck it through. And I have to say, I changed my mind toward the end. I was like, oh, I kind of like this girl now. I kind of like.
Well, okay, but because part of it was they tried way too hard. Where they're like, look, it's going to be an opposites attract.
Yeah.
Like Wednesday. I mean, and again, beautiful set design. But it was like where, we talked a little bit about some of this sort of subtle symbolism in Andor.
Yeah.
In this one, they're like, look, like she wears bright colored nail polish. And we made half of the room really bright stained glass. And then Wednesday's side of the room is completely dark. Guys, do you get it? Like they're opposites. Like she's cheerful and sunny and Wednesday's dark and gloomy. Guys, do you get it? Do you get it? And we're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Guys, like, can we have a little bit of nuance? A little bit?
We are just sorry. We're about 56 minutes in. Just FYI, just heads up, scoreboard.
All right, but yeah, I mean, that was another one where the actress, I thought she was like just good enough where she didn't ruin it, but not good enough from like, yeah, I love that character. For me, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we've been circling around this a little bit. Is Wednesday a binge or a purge for you?
Again, it's neither or for me, because especially when you think of binge, for me is like you start watching it from the beginning, you just can't put it down. It was such a slow start for me that I couldn't say it was a binge up front, and then as I started getting more into the whole like the whodunitness, it got to the point where I was like, okay, I stayed up to watch the next one and then the next one. So it was a binge towards the end. The beginning was a rough start.
Well, because the other part in the beginning, they really were trying to set up the whole Harry Potter thing.
Yeah.
Like one of the big things in Harry Potter are the different houses sort of pitted against each other, and it's the Gryffindors versus the Slytherins. Oh, we don't like the Slytherins because they're bad and blah blah. And they were trying to do that with the different sort of like the
cliques.
Yeah, the sirens and the werewolves.
And they never went with it.
No, they just kind of forgot about it.
They just
they had the canoe race, and then they're like, whatever, we're over this whole thing.
Yeah.
So for me, this is kind of weird, because I think to enjoy this show, you'd really have to be in the right mood. I also think it's hilarious, by the way. This would have been a perfect Halloween show.
Yeah, if they did it like
right?
a month earlier, it would have been perfect.
If you just wanted like a dumb kind of fun-ish show with monsters and some blood and gore, and amazing Halloween show if you're in that mood. And they're like, no. Hear us out. Here says Christmas.
Also, the way they released all the episodes at once. If they were to do that, then like you said, go back towards like Halloween and then do them right all before Halloween. But if they would have done like a weekly release, or some of these shows now are doing like 2 or 3 episodes up front, and then they start doing a weekly after that. They should have done something like that to tie it in with Halloween. It has nothing to do with Christmas at all. There was not even, which I'm okay with. Like in Hawkeye, when Hawkeye came out, they tried to like sneak in or like wedge in the Christmas
was so
stuff.
Dumb. Yeah, I didn't like that.
They didn't do that at all with this one, which
is better.
Okay,
I think it was better that they didn't. I guess what I'm trying to get at was I ended up enjoying the show. This was a show where you kind of just have to shut your brain off and not try to worry too much. And you're like, all right, there's going to be dumb dialogue and they're going to get really repetitive about Wednesday being edgy and so forth and so on. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed it. Tim Burton directed, and visually the show's really beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
You're just like, oh, cool, macabre stuff and Wednesday and whatever. And ultimately, not a great show.
What would you rate it, 1 through 10?
5.
Really? I'd give it a 6.5, maybe a 7.
But for me, I was in the mood for just kind of a little fantasy-based thing, and it didn't have to be perfect. So I did binge it, but I would probably rate this as a purge. Like, I would not recommend this to somebody else.
Yeah. If you were, okay, like I've got a young niece and nephew. Like, I would recommend it to them because I think it's more in line to like their age group.
Well, the demo for this show is 13-year-old girls. Yeah. Let's be clear about
it. and some 16-year-old boys. I won't think that Jenna Ortega is a little cutie or something. But
I mean, if your thing is like really, really pale girls and like tons of powder makeup, then yeah, that's and like and just a lot of black. And was she always wearing combat boots?
I think so, yes. And then she also had so like all the other students had their school uniform.
Yeah, but she's allergic to color, which was kind of funny, but then it also didn't.
No.
Like, she touched plenty of things that were colorful, and it
she
didn't have any bearing
She had the
on
same
anything.
uniform that everybody else did, but hers is all black and gray and white.
Because she's Wednesday and she's an edgelord. Sorry, edge queen. You know what? I hope that this show gets a second season.
Yeah.
And like they just make it better.
Yeah.
Because sometimes shows like this, when they get a little bit of a head of steam, then they come back and they're like, okay, we see all the stuff we fucked up.
There was they did sprinkle in some profanity here and there, and then I think they may have gotten in trouble or something, because then they moved away from it, because there was like early on there was like shit, and I think there was an F word or something, I remember. But toward the latter episodes, what got me laughing,
there was a lot of fisting. A thing. He's a hand.
Yeah. Anyway,
Get it? Because he's the disembodied hand.
They moved away from.
Dude, by the way, was it just me, or is everyone like all the normies way just too nonchalant about meeting Thing?
Yeah, like guy
They're
was
just like, oh yeah, disembodied hand. Yeah, whatever.
We're over an hour and 2-3 minutes ish now. So, is there anything else you wanted to add to the episode?
Nah.
I don't either. Just a heads up for the degenerate land out there. I'm going to attempt at being out to California for the Christmas holiday, and then probably stay through New Year's Eve. So there's probably not going to be an episode somewhere in that period, episode or two. Apologize in advance for that. But anyway, hope you guys appreciated or enjoyed this episode. Thanks again for watching and listening and all that shit. Talk to you guys in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.